Hello, my name is Darren. I'm a dad. I'm an airline pilot. I'm a husband of a scientist. And although I fly a Boeing 777 now, last year I did fly my last trip on the Airbus as a first officer. And at the time, I was shooting video for a different social media platform that was a vertical video platform. And I shot all the video, and then I went into training, and then I left that platform, so that video never got produced. But I figured some people might want to see my last trip on the Airbus, so I'm going to put it here on YouTube. Now, again, it is mostly vertical video, some is horizontal, but it was a fantastic 3-day trip. It was the trip I did often when I was somewhat senior on the Airbus. It was a 3-day trip, 2-2-2, meaning 2 legs per day. Day 1 was an early start at 3:30 in the morning, leaving my house. I did not do my hair, please forgive me. It was a 5 a.m. departure out of Dallas to Miami, then a sit in Miami, then Miami to St. Lucia, St. Lucia back to Miami, Miami up to Newark, and then Newark to Miami. And on that leg, a friend of mine, Sophia, from online, she's a really talented woman. She's actually going to be a pilot herself, shot video of me taking off out of Newark. But it was Newark to Miami, and then Miami to DFW at my last leg. Now, day 1 had issues. Day 2 was pretty easy. Day 3 had issues as well. So follow along on my last trip on the Airbus. The trip paid about 20 hours, I believe, which was a high time 3-day trip. And again, I missed my island flying. But bear with me on the vertical video. Here it is, my last 3-day trip as an Airbus First Officer. So the first leg of the trip was on an Airbus 321, one of the special livery models, Piedmont. And we were headed to Miami. This was a 5 a.m. departure out of Dallas, being had to be at the airport at 4 in the morning. Super early on. This flight is typically for people that are connecting the Caribbean flights in Miami. The flight there, we left a few minutes early, got there a few minutes early into Miami, and then I had a pretty good sit time of about almost 3 hours before heading over to St. Lucia for 24 hours. Now, I'm smiling because I parked right next to my next plane, the Boeing 777. Again, here I am on my last trip of the Airbus, and I parked next to a 777 in Miami. Pretty excited about flying that airplane back then. I was missing my tray table already, though. But after a nice sit in the Miami airport, it was time to head to St. Lucia. Again, another Airbus 321. And look at all this room in here. You 737 pilots, you don't have anywhere near this much room. And I took a lot of video because I'm like, I'm going to miss this flight deck. Now, flight to St. Lucia, again, was on an Airbus 321 as well. Now, I've been carrying an easy button ever since I was a CFI many years ago, and I have it out right now trying to fix the airplane because the plane was fine until the last about a minute. On final, I called out the captain's approach speed he was flying, and he was 5 knots slow on my PFD. On his PFD, he was about 5 knots fast. It didn't show up until we were on final that we had an airspeed situation on the airplane. Yeah. And so I used the easy button to kind of fix the airplane. Of course, that didn't work. The plane was grounded for about over a day with I sent mechanics from the mainland. But I got to enjoy 24 hours in paradise at a nice all-inclusive resort in St. Lucia. Again, there are worse places to be. And I did these kind of overnights a lot when I was on the Airbus. Every winter, I would go to some Caribbean island almost every single week. And this is something I really miss. But quick briefing about the flight right here. So today was a day. Woke up this morning at 3 o'clock, left home at 3:20, got to the airport around 3:45-ish, about 3:35, it was a short drive. But got to the terminal D, went to the crew room for the first time in a long time to get a checklist. Couldn't find one, did get free coffee. That's a good thing. But then terminal D, leaving out terminal C, and the Skylink was only operating in the clockwise direction. If you know DFW Airport, it meant that I had to go from D to B to A to C. I don't park in C parking. I just never do. Anyway, got to the plane. The captain had a good checklist for me. That was awesome. First leg, I took the first leg. Why not? My last trip. Bumpy flight to Miami. I made a very good landing. Even my flight attendant was like, dude, awesome landing. I'm like, yeah, I got lucky. We had to do a plane swap. Then the next airplane was powered off. Could have been sitting there for 2 hours. And one of the navigation computers wouldn't turn on. We had 3 computers on board. One wouldn't cooperate. We boarded, yada, yada. Maintenance came, delay. Then the APU wouldn't have oil in it. Whatever. They MEL'd one of the computers. Not a big deal. Put oil in the APU. We left an hour and 18 minutes late. Turns out we had an airspeed issue. And at 500 feet, I called him being 5 knots too slow. And he didn't say anything. He was like correcting, but he looked down and he was actually 10 knots, no, about 10 knots over speed. But it's not a big deal because it was pretty bumpy and windy. Big difference, right? Landed here, got to the gate, and unfortunately the plane is dead. Staying till tomorrow, but it is what it is. Last trip. But that's a day in the life of an airline pilot, right? But now I'm going to go join my captain for dinner because it is a nice day. It's overcast, so I'll be getting no tanning done. But it's been my last overnight in the Caribbean for a while because the 777 does not come to the Caribbean, and I did this on purpose. So after about 20-ish hours at the resort, it was time to head into the van, which is, again, they drive on the other side of the road down in St. Lucia, and head to the airport. Day 2 was a pretty easy day. It was St. Lucia to Miami, and then Miami up to Newark. And I don't fly to Newark that often. I think including this trip, I flew to Newark twice in my 7 years at this airline. We have a hub up in New York, but I don't fly there very often, and obviously don't fly there very often. But thankfully, it was a very nice day. I did let one of my followers know that I was coming to Newark, and she was nice enough to film my takeoff out of Newark on day 3. But first, we have to leave St. Lucia. Again, St. Lucia, like many islands in the Caribbean, they don't have a terminal with the jet bridge. You walk on the concrete to get to the airplane. And it can be mass confusion when there's lots of planes on the ground. Because people sometimes will just take a beeline towards an airplane, even though they have these nice orderly lines. People will just literally walk they'll try to walk right in front of them, like even a plane with a beacon on, because they don't know any better, to the airplane. Thankfully, on this day, it didn't happen. But it is also funny. See the little dots on the ground? See, there's the broken airplane over there. It's still here. I did enjoy sitting in the flight deck, watching people board and seeing all the people that clearly enjoyed their vacation and got a lot of sun. Like, you could tell they shouldn't be darker than me, and they were darker than me. Walking to the flight deck and checking myself out in the mirror. Hey, you. Storing away my jacket. Again, the Airbus is such a gentleman's place to sit and work. All the room in the world. Took my seat, and it'll be my leg over to Miami. Again, poor Airbus 321 next to us. It did leave that same day. They had mechanics there fixing some issues with the airplane. It's unfortunate that the crew got another overnight in St. Lucia, so there's worse places to get stuck. One thing about flying in the Caribbean islands is you don't ever get your clearance for the most part until after you start the engines and push back from the gate area. Then you get your clearance. It's just how they do things down there. Easy flight to Miami, there for about 2.5 hours, and then we had our flight up to Newark. And this is what a normal clearance looks like, in the United States anyway. It's printed out on a nice piece of paper. And for those of you that are interested, I'll read it to you. Flight 2008 on the 5th of March, Miami to Newark. It is PDC, pre-departure clearance. It's flight number 2008 again. Transponder code 1366. Airbus 321 Slant Lima. That's our equipment code. Proposed time is 0205 Zulu at level 310. Cleared from Miami on the Falls to departure to Alera, Grubber, Yankee 299, to Silo, to Garrick, Q129, to Arn, to Court, to Pueblo 5 for arrival into Newark. Then a textual clearance is for the departure. Clear on the Falls to departure, Alera transition, climb via the SID. First of all, 310, 10 minutes after departure. Departure frequency is 119.45, and ground control frequency is 121.8. Again, it's nice going from nice and warm St. Lucia to Miami to a slightly cooler Newark airport. But thankfully, it was a very short overnight. This was my first time in the Newark brand new terminal. It was really nice, except for this really disgusting, inconsistent coffee. I feel sorry for people that have to drink that drivel. Newark, Liberty, and Duncan, I'm sorry. That's a horrible, horrible match. In fact, me being so petty, the next day for departure, on day 3, here I am with my Starbucks coffee because it is consistent. You might call it burnt, but it is consistent coffee, and that is very important. Since it was my last day on the Airbus, I wanted to bring up my easy button to make sure I'd have an easy day. I didn't want to have any issues. I want to get home on time on day 3 and just be done. So get my easy button, taking it out for good luck. I get lots of questions what kind of headset I use. I still use the same headset now. It is the Bose ProFlight 2 headset. Do not buy this if you fly general aviation. It does not provide enough noise cancellation for a general aviation airplane like one 172 or anything else like that. But if you fly a jet, it's very comfortable to use. I do have to use an adapter on some Airbus to plug in, and that's what I'm doing here. Again, it was an awkward spot on the Airbus. But I did have an adapter on some airplanes. Other airplanes had normal GA plugs. Most airplanes have normal GA plugs. And thank you again to Sophia, aka Walmart of the Sky, for filming my takeoff out of Newark. She's currently up at UND doing her pilot training herself. And the flight down to Miami was fairly standard, a little bit of weather deviations here and there, but got into Miami and packed up my things because again, we had another plane swap. And again, I'm lucky that we flew a 321 all of the legs. But anyway, I cleaned up the flight deck, threw away all my trash, made sure I had all my stuff with me, and headed up to the terminal for about a 2.5 hour state of airport appreciation. Again, checking out another Boeing 777, parked a few gates down. And now it's the last flight, leaving out of gate D1. I walked up to the mat, and the door didn't open. I'm like, what? And Gage like, oh, I thought I unlocked it for you, but they didn't unlock it for me. But anyway, they unlocked the door, head down to the flight deck. It is the last flight. Airbus 321 Neo. It'd be my leg. And I love the Airbus flight deck, and watching this video makes me miss it even more. So much room. But everything stored away. Did the pre-flight of the flight deck, pre-flight of the outside of the airplane for one last time. And then it was time to have one quick fun video of the Airbus 321 before getting down to business and planning the flight over to Dallas. So being a Neo, we got to use CPDLC to get our clearance. So it looks a little different than the PDC from earlier, right? But from KUSA control, clear to the DFW airport via the Bongos 3 departure via Dolly, then S file, climb via the SID, Apollo 240, 10 minutes after departure. Departure frequency is 119.45 and squawk 3671. And again, contact ground control on 121.8. So same airport. Again, the other one was Miami to Newark. This is Miami to DFW. But the clearances have a different format. We got them in different ways. One was PDC. This one was CPDLC. So my last flight, and there was delays out of Miami because of the weather. So I was using Flight Radar 24 to see how many planes were lined up down at the end of the runway for takeoff, and there was quite a few. There was quite a few planes down there. And then I looked at the turbulence map. It's called SkyPath to see how rough the ride was going to be. Now this app you're going to see, you guys can't have it. It's not for free. My airline pays for it. But it's showing me here it's going to be a pretty rough ride over northern Florida over to DFW. How this app works is the iPad, as you know, is a very sensitive device. We have it mounted here on the flight deck. When it shakes enough, it records turbulence and uses the Wi-Fi to tell other planes about the turbulence as well. So I use this before every single flight, and it's all the red there and orange. It's a bumpy ride, and we can see it at various flight levels. We can see what kind of airplane reported it. It's all over northern Florida, and then it's smooth until we get to Dallas, but that is for later, right? And what causes turbulence? Well, in this case, it was convective activity. Now, we're not flying through the thunderstorm. We're flying around the thunderstorms. And understand, turbulence is more uncomfortable than it is unsafe. Say it again. Turbulence is more uncomfortable than it is unsafe. All right. Launched toward Dallas, and there were thunderstorms all over the Metroplex. The controllers did a fabulous job keeping us clear of the weather and letting us do our own thing. We didn't fly through any thunderstorms at all, and it was just bumpy. Just bumpy. Now, here I am coming in on runway 18 right in Dallas, and just south of the airfield, maybe about 10 miles away, is a line of convective activity, thunderstorms. The winds on the ATIS were reporting 190 at like 5. The actual winds from the tower were like 220 at like 18 gusting to 28. So pretty good gusty wind. And of course, the higher you go, generally the higher the winds are. And at 3,000 feet, they're over 50 knots gusting. So it's a bumpy ride down final. Again, it is safe. It's just bumpy and uncomfortable. So as much as I would love to have a nice calm wind, clear sky day for my last flight on the Airbus, it was not. It was bumpy, and the runway was wet, but it wasn't actively raining. So all the way down final we went, and my landing was average. Wasn't great. It was just average because again, it was really bumpy and windy, so I had to work for the landing. Got the landing on the runway, and then of course we swapped roles, got to the gate, and I was done flying the Airbus. Now, thankfully, I was flying with a captain that had a great sense of humor, and you'll see why in a few minutes. But I packed up my last things. It took my time, kind of savored the moment, packing up my things for the last time on the Airbus and headed out the door. Grabbed my jacket what I thought was my jacket and head up the escalator on the Skylink. I grabbed the wrong jacket. I know I didn't see my pen here. I grabbed the wrong jacket. And with that, I'm done flying the Airbus. Last leg was not easy. Weather over Florida caused moderate turbulence. Then it was okay in between, and then getting closer to Dallas, like real close to Dallas, it got very uncomfortable. I was never scared, of course. It was just stressful. Pretty bad weather out there over Dallas. It got pretty rough a little while. Get vectored in for a 1-8 right approach, which is not normal for Miami, but the weather caused that. It was winds were 190 at 8 on the ATIS, and that's what I planned for, right? And then winds were 220 at 28, gusting to 38. Oh, it was fun. Landing was not buttery smooth. It had to work for it, really work for it. But it was safe. It was never in doubt. But I'm done. That's it. Next chapter will be 777. Hope you enjoyed the video. Again, I do miss my Airbus flight deck. It was logical. The table was very useful, not just for eating, but for planning and all kinds of stuff. It was a very useful table. I miss my space. The 777 is a big flight deck, but I miss my space at the Airbus. It just felt right. And one day, maybe I'll go back to it. Hey, maybe my airline will even buy some Airbus 350s. That would make my day. I would even fly to Charlotte in an Airbus 350. But that is the video of my last 3-day trip. Again, please like, comment, and subscribe. Shoot questions here. Right, this email address right here. I'll email you back. Give me 7 days to get back to you. Or drop a comment for a quick question. I'll answer it. I promise you. Or if you go to Instagram, you can message me there. No matter how you message me, except for comments, give me 7 days to get back to you. Have a great day. And as always, thank you for stopping by.